listening to Best Served Cold, a Born Millennials podcast, the Australian true crime podcast where we drink wine and talk about crime.
Formerly Egypt's 36th most popular true crime podcast, hosted by Tama J and Laura Elise.
Sit down, relax, grab a drink, and enjoy this week's episode.
Hello.
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 Good
Welcome
morning,
back.
good evening, and good
Just good in
afternoon.
general. Why don't we just
After
cut
that.
the evening and morning out of good, morning and evening, and just say good?
Just have a good.
Hey, good.
No longer even asking people. I'm just going to go, hey, good.
Hey, good.
Just assuming that the polite societal niceties will force people to ask me.
We're going into societal lapses
Yeah,
and
we
collapses.
won't get into that yet.
So, yeah.
Anyway, welcome to another week of Best Served Cold, the true crime podcast where we drink wine and talk about crime. I'm one of your amazing co-hosts, and my anaconda don't want none because I'm actually kind of scared of snakes.
And I'm your other co-host, Tama Tor, now with nuts.
Now with nuts.
Now with nuts.
That's new news for me. I'm pretty sure it was always served with nuts.
Oh, but
Anyway,
you can expect much more zingers like that throughout the show.
If you're new around
here.
for those of you who are new around here, we'll just quickly run through our few housekeeping things at the start before we jump into... Actually, you know what? I'm going to quickly ask you first. How's your week been, Tama?
It's been okay.
We're trying to get back into the habit
Trying to
of doing
get back.
that.
Yeah, it's been busy.
Yes.
It's been a lot of things on,
Yes.
and I'm excited to have a day off tomorrow.
Very true. We're going thrifting. I'm very
Yes.
excited.
How's your week?
It's been okay. I'm on a new work schedule. So I've just been working my new schedule and getting used to that.
Yeah,
And that's kind of it.
fantastic.
It is fantastic. Thank you for saying that.
You are welcome.
You are... I nearly said you are welcome, and I was like, no, that's not right.
Just say good. Good.
Good.
That's our new thing. Good.
Oh,
Housekeeping.
it's going
Let's
to be
do
one of those weeks, isn't it?
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping. So if you're new around here, you can follow us on social media, all things podcast, no, all things social media. At the BSC Podcast, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now on YouTube as well, and also on TikTok. It is the same handle on everything for easy access, continuity, all that jazz.
We worked very hard to get a fucking handle that just fit
everything and wasn't taken on one social media platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very annoying.
Yeah, very annoying.
But anyway, the BSC Podcast, you'll find us on everything. I also forgot that I should be telling you all that we have merch, and I was only reminded because someone bought our merch this week. We
Thank you,
actually have
Dylan.
merch.
Shout out to Dylan.
The link is in our link tree, which is like in the bio of all our social media things. You can check that out. And I'm going to be doing another release soon of new designs, so they should be available for everyone. Our last piece of housekeeping. Yes, last piece of housekeeping.
The swearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is if you are new around here, we like to tell people at the
You a
beginning of
host of
each
the show?
episode. No, I'm not apparently.
Okay.
We like to tell people that we do tend to swear a lot in the show. So if you are someone who does not like the cusses, we would kindly request that you exit through the gift shop. Feel free to pick yourself up a souvenir, but please do not leave us a 1-star review on Apple because you will make me cry.
Yes. Please. Avoid the salty things.
What?
You're already too salty.
Oh, I get it. I was like,
See, I told you the zingers would be piling up today.
Sure.
We're going hard.
Zingers, yeah.
Wow.
Whatever you need to tell
Okay.
yourself to sleep.
Anyway, it is starting off today with you.
Yeah, I
We're
feel
doing
like
your
I'm
case.
absolutely forgetting housekeeping things, but that's fine. I do
That's
every
okay.
week.
Just
So
merch, follow us on Instagram and all those other things, and don't yell at us for swearing.
yeah,
Oh, and if you do like the show, give us a review. Spotify and Apple have both review options now, so do that.
and that's it.
That's
All
it.
right, let's jump into it. So I have talked about my love of horror films and thriller films and all things spooky many times on this show. Some of you may or may not know that I actually run another or co-host another show with one of my friends. We're on a little brief hiatus, but we're hoping to come back soon. It's called Little Show of Horrors. We basically just review horror films.
Yeah.
So I could not believe that one of my favorite horror movies of all time is actually very loosely based off a true story. So one of my favorite horror films is the movie Orphan, which is
yes.
essentially a young girl who pretends to be like 13 and gets herself adopted. This is allegedly based off two separate stories, but I'm going to be talking about the one that I had never heard of and is way more fucked up than the other one that was on Oprah, or what was it on? It was on like
One of those talk shows. Dr. Phil, like
Dr.
Oprah.
I said Dr. John.
Dr. John? Yeah, I love that show.
Love Dr. John.
You ever see Dr. John?
Anyway, so today the story I'm going to be talking about is another goddamn Russian one. So just bear with me on the names, okay? I'm trying my best. I also want to give a bit of a trigger warning for torture of children and cannibalism in this one. If that's not your thing, maybe just like skip ahead 20 minutes because, yeah. So there's a few different kind of key players in this story. So first off is Clara and Catarina Morovova, who were both born in Slovakia. They were sisters, with Clara being the eldest. So from a young age, both Clara and Catarina had struggled severely with depression and other mental health issues, including schizophrenia. Both sisters believed that they had been put on Earth for a God-orientated or God-ordained mission. They had like hallucinations that Joan of Arc was giving them, like instructions that they were put on Earth to have this like amazing purpose. And so they were always kind of like planning these like grand schemes of how they were going to enact this God-ordained life mission they'd been given. So at age 20, Clara goes off to university. She falls in love, she gets married, and shortly after falls pregnant with her first son, Andre, which I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing correctly because it's spelled Ondrej. I'm going to say Andre.
I think it's Andrej.
Andrej.
I'm not too sure.
Say Andre because I can't pronounce the other name. Despite her violent behaviour, Clara would go on to have another child with this man who she named Jacob. And due to her mental health struggles, she was soon divorced from this man and living as a single mother. Despite her eccentric behaviour, she was known as a good mother who loved her boys very much. She would often be out playing with them. And after a short while of living that single mum life, she decides to move in with her sister Catarina, who I assume have some sort of aid with taking care of the boys, as well as only being about 23 at this age. She wants someone to be friends with.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The two sisters, who are both at university at this time, befriend 33-year-old Barbora Skrlová, who is an award-winning classical composer.
Oh.
Barbara has a rare glandular disease, which I'm going to try so hard to pronounce, hypopituitarism.
Oh, wow, you actually kind of got it.
I hope.
That was impressive.
Basically, this makes her look much, much, much younger than she actually is. So she's 33, but she looks like she's around 12 or 13.
Wow.
And many people, in fact, have mistaken her for a child. She's prone to getting in trouble with the law, and Barbora.
You're trying.
If you say everything with a Russian accent, it sounds
Russian. Yeah.
So she often poses a minor to avoid any sort of real consequences or charges being formally filed against her, allowing her to really kind of lean into her crime-loving personality. So believable is her appearance as a child that she manages to trick several families over the years into, quote, adopting her. I don't think it was in sort of any kind of formal
sense, but
but she like lived with them and they like took care of her and fed her and clothed her.
Gotcha.
Including Clara and Catarina. So she befriends Clara and tells them that her name is Anna and that she is a young girl and that she's escaped from a juvenile centre where she was living, where she had left due to being treated badly. Clara takes pity on what she thinks is the young girl and offers her a place in her home alongside Jacob, Andre, and Catarina. Now, I will say that that's kind of where sort of the resemblance to the movie finishes, but the story just gets worse.
Right, so it's like a loose inspiration for a premise of the story, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess the person of Barbara inspired the character in the movie Orphan, but their particular story is way worse than the movie. So living with Clara and Catarina and Clara's two young sons, Barbara soon... I feel like I'm pronouncing her name wrong. I'm just going to call her Barb. Barb soon begins to resent Clara's sons and the attention that is lavished upon them, and she begins causing trouble and then blaming on the boys. Clara's anger towards her son intensifies as Barb's, pranks, not necessarily pranks, but her
juvenile behavior
around the house continues to get worse and gets them into more and more trouble. In the end, Clara, alongside her sister Catarina, turns to a man recommended to them by Barbara, who refers to himself as the Doctor, for help and guidance in dealing with her naughty children. What Clara and Catarina didn't know at the time was that the Doctor was actually one of the leaders of a religious cult known as the Grail movement. So, quick cliff notes on the Grail movement. The German Grail movement began prior to World War II, and fun fact, it was actually banned by Hitler when he came into power. So, something's not good if it's...
No, if he finds a problem with it.
Yeah. Although he also found a problem with Jewish people and they didn't do anything wrong, so maybe that's not a great example.
Well, yeah, I think maybe anything Hitler does is kind of not really deemed of sound mind.
So the founder of the Grail movement and their self-proclaimed messiah, Oskar Ernst Bernhardt, lived in... See, why can I say German names so easily? Yeah, so he lived in Austria and purchased a large piece of land that he had planned to turn into a compound for his followers. He called his religion the Grail movement and published a book titled In the Light of Truth, which basically explained all of their beliefs. The Grail movement cult's beliefs are a mix of Christianity and New Age with a little lovely dash of violence thrown in.
Fantastic.
Even though the cult isn't extremely widespread, its followers are very devout and have made headlines for things like treating women as slaves and cannibalizing one of their own children.
Interesting, okay.
So Jiri Adam, leader of a Grail movement sect in Czechia, was arrested in 2008 for treating some of his female followers like slaves. The women were forced to build a house out of bricks and pave a road on his property. They were treated poorly and punished with teeny tiny food rations for anything that he deemed as them acting out.
Jesus.
One of the women even died while working, and she was secretly buried in a corner of the compound, and the workers believed that he had healing powers.
As you do.
So the Doctor is this sort of region's cult leader. And he's also allegedly, he did go missing after this, so he's also allegedly Barbara's biological father.
Oh.
Although it's kind of one of those things where a bunch of different sources mention it. But
yeah, it could have just been, it's just a rumor at this stage.
Yeah. So after originally being introduced to these sisters under the guise of helping Clara's supposedly wayward sons, he manages to convince both sisters that they can gain access to heaven by joining his group and following his ways. And this is sort of where it really plays into their obvious, already established mental health issues, their beliefs that they were born with this weird God-ordained mission. So they become members of the Grail movement and start to receive orders via, quote, the Doctor through text messages, often encouraging them to commit violent acts. They were convinced that their mission had finally arrived and that the girl, Anna, who it's really unclear if at any stage they realised she wasn't Anna and wasn't a 13-year-old girl.
Right.
But she believes that this girl has been sent as basically like fate to come into their lives, enlighten them, and lead them on this God-ordained mission that they've always thought they had.
Okay.
So Barb then suggests to the sisters, who are essentially completely brainwashed at this stage, to lock Andre and Jacob in tiny cages in their basement and proceed to brutally torture them over the course of almost a year. The two boys are stripped naked and locked in two tiny iron cages with no blankets or beddings. They are starved, tortured, beaten, and sexually assaulted. And in addition, they're burned with cigarettes, given electric shocks, scratched with forks, whipped, and almost drowned multiple times by Clara and Catarina. They're also handcuffed to tables and forced to stand in their own waste for days. And if they were sick, they were made to eat it.
Oh, God.
So, obviously,
not good.
Barbara is a sociopath.
Yes.
Or psychopath. And the excitement of this initial torture and mutilation kind of begins to wear off and she wants more. She constantly keeps on Clara and Catarina to do what the doctor suggests and practice cannibalism. So it's soon decided that they would force feed the boys to make them gain weight after essentially starving them for nearly a year. And after gaining some weight, they hold the boys down, one of the boys, and skin his leg. They then eat the raw flesh. They do the same to Jacob and then even force the boys to eat their own flesh.
That's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this horrific torture continues on for some time until May 7th, 2007. So Clara had installed a television system via a surveillance baby monitor so that she could watch what the boys were doing as well as watch the abuse happen from a different room. On May 7th, a neighbour is installing her own baby monitor for her newborn and is attempting to get the frequency correct. The monitor in the neighbour's property accidentally picks up, and this is one of those crazy
instances.
Imagine if this hadn't happened moment. As she's trying to tune the monitor that you would take into another room to the monitor that stays in the baby's room, she accidentally picks up the feed from the monitor, which just so happens to be the same brand from the house next door.
Wow.
So she's horrified when she realizes that she's watching a young boy who is naked, bound, and obviously beaten and left on the floor through this baby monitor. She immediately calls the police.
Of course, yeah.
They arrive on scene. They find Clara and Catarina upstairs. When they descend into the basement, they find Jacob and Andre locked in the cages and a young girl, Annika, sitting on the floor hysterically crying. Jacob, Andre, and Annika are released and taken to a children's home while Clara and Catarina are arrested. However, before the police realize that they have been duped, 12-year-old Annika does not exist. She flees the children's home. Before police get a chance to arrest her, Barb flees to Norway, where she takes up a new identity as a 13-year-old boy called Adam. So she shaves her head, starts binding her chest, and is again taken in by another children's home who enroll Adam in school. School principal Ingrid Eriksson later said of Adam's behaviour, "We did react to Adam's behaviour, but it's not easy to know children at that age can be so different." In mid-December, however, Adam, or Barbara, decides to run away and disappears from the Oslo children's home, prompting police, obviously a missing 13-year-old boy, to launch a nationwide search for this boy and publish photographs in the newspaper and the media on January 4th of this missing, quote, child. Tips then lead them to find Barbara in the Arctic city of Tromsø. So by this stage, Clara and Catarina have turned on each other as well as Barbara, and Clara claims that she's been brainwashed by a doctor who sent her text messages instructing her what abuse and torture to inflict on her sons. Police later discovered that the phone number of the so-called doctor actually belonged to Catarina,
Interesting.
her sister. So there was a real doctor, but then her sister, and I assume Barb, have intercepted and just started taking over and sending Clara messages to torture her own children.
That's the level of thought that goes into that as well.
Barbara also attempts to claim her own innocence by announcing herself as another one of their victims, but her reports are thankfully not believed. According to prosecutors, the purpose of the torture of the young boys was to try and break them to enslave them for religious purposes. While the three women were a part of the Grail movement, they had actually been attempting to create their own kind of subcult, one that called for members to prove their devotion through physical devotion.
Of course.
The three women are tried and eventually found guilty, with Clara being sentenced to 9 years in prison. Catarina is sentenced to 10 years in prison, and Barb Skrlová was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and they have all since been paroled and released.
Wow.
And as of today, I cannot really find out what happened to any of them or the boys. I hope that they're
In better
living nice
hands
lives.
now. Yeah.
But yeah.
How do you go on after that? That's such a difficult thing to go through. Not only your own parental figures tormenting you and torturing you, but going through their brainwashing as a cult as well.
Yeah.
That's
it's
such a horrendous thing to go through.
horrible.
Russia goes hard.
Oh, yeah. They got some weird ones.
That's almost like worse than the actual movie as well.
Well, yeah, I
In a
think the
sense.
actual like events of what happened is definitely worse than the movie. But it's very interesting that there's like multiple cases of people being older and pretending to be a kid.
Yeah.
Weird.
Crazy to think that that's actually a thing that like that in that sense of that aspect of pretending to be a child, fooling the system, fooling families into adopting you is a real thing that actually happened.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Like multiple times.
Like multiple times
Yeah.
in different countries.
Wild.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that case, Laura.
You're very welcome.
Thank you specifically. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to be getting into my case. Welcome back. How was the break for you, Laura?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything
Great.
because we don't really take a break. I
Okay,
don't know
just-
how these started. Like, why did we start taking breaks?
I
Because we
think
never
just
actually
to have a drink break, have to go to the bathroom if you need to do it.
Oh yeah, I did
'Cause
have
we
a sip
do-
of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's
We just
all
need
right. I
like a
did
little
have break.
reset. And it's good for you guys listening too, because we go from one to the other. You know,
And you have some soothing
element.
elevator music
Exactly,
in the middle.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great for everyone.
Anyway,
All right,
look, so this
Tama,
this
you're up.
case came to me, as some often do, by a TikTok that I was watching.
Ooh.
And it is so fascinating the level of just decline it goes into. So, Laura,
Yes.
you're familiar with MTV.
Yes.
You remember a show called Pimp My Ride?
Do I? It was one of my favorite. I
Yeah.
fucking love Pimp My Ride.
How good
so
was
much.
it? It was one of the
mainly
best.
because it was like, why do you need 16-inch
Yeah.
plasma screen TVs
Why do you need a
in your
fish
car?
tank or a-
Why would anyone need that?
No. But it was so fucking amazing
Yeah.
of a show. It was
Like
it
all
was one
these
of the best.
poor
wasn't it?
people are not going to be able to afford to
No.
upkeep these cars.
So for those of you who aren't aware, Pimp My Ride is an American TV series made by MTV and was hosted by the rapper Exhibit, which is I love Exhibit as well, by the way, great rapper. It ran on MTV for about 6 seasons with 73 episodes from 2004 to 2007, and the
Watch it
premise.
so bad now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can. For each episode, it featured a young adult who had a car that maybe was banged up. It was set in the early 2000s, so the cars were usually from like the 80s or early 90s. They're like these banged up like Civics and Buicks that just had a lot of issues with them. So Exhibit would meet up with this person, they'd look at the car, they'd bring it into their workshop, and the guys there would completely fix it and pimp it out, add some crazy shit to the vehicle that suited their personality. For example, one guy who was supposedly a sweet tooth, liked candy, he had a cotton candy machine built into the boot of the car.
Because,
Like-
as you do.
There was a guy who was obsessed with the video game Need for Speed Underground, and he had his car painted to look like one of the specially customized in the Need for Speed video game series. A bowler had a ball spinner installed in his trunk. A badminton player had a badminton net installed in the back of his Dodge Caravan. And a surfer got a clothes dryer in the back of his Volkswagen Type 2. So the restoration and the customization were done by West Coast Customs in Corona, California. This was for the first 4 seasons of the show, and then for seasons 5 and 6, it was Galpin Autosports or GAS.
Can I just quickly say
Absolutely.
the level of cookedness in those things? Like one of them, oh, you like sweets? We're going to give you a cotton candy machine.
Yeah.
Oh, you like a movie? We're going to make the replica. And then the other one's like, oh, you're a surfer? Oh, we'll give
Here's a
you something
fucking air dryer.
useful. Like everyone else got stupid things, and the surfer's like, oh yeah, we'll give you something that
Yeah, some
actually
episodes
useful.
they're like, we have nothing. I don't know
We're
what
going to make
do.
it look like the Fast and the Furious movie.
So, obviously, this show went fucking gangbusters. Like, everyone knows it. You just mention Pimp My Ride, everyone knows what it is. It's like saying Kanye West. Everyone knows who Kanye West is. It got so big, they had a few spin-offs, including Pimp My Ride UK, Pimp My Ride Baltic, Pimp My Car in Indonesia, and there was even a Pimp My Room in the Netherlands, and MTV in Brazil did Pimp My Feed, where influencers helped other influencers get maximum follow accounts. There were video games, and there's one I actually even remember playing back in the day. I got from Civic Video, which is basically like Blockbuster, I guess, for Australia.
Yeah.
Even though we had Blockbuster as well.
And Video Easy.
Yeah, and Video Easy. That was the shit. So I remember playing one of these games, and it was fucking frustrating because you had to compete with other people. Anyway, that's a tangent for another time. So, with most reality TV series, it's safe to assume that, for the most part, some of it's going to be scripted. That's a given with anything, reality. There's not all going to be...
What? Reality TV shows aren't real?
I know, right? It's crazy. So... although Pimp My Ride didn't seem too outrageously scripted, the people did seem real, the cars looked real, and the reactions seemed very genuine too. So I want to take a look at some in particular people on the show, because some of them would actually come out years later and reveal the reality of this reality TV show.
Ooh.
So one person who was featured on the show was a 22-year-old film student called Brook Seagal. In the show, Brook... they showed her apartment, they showed her car, her story. She's a film student looking to, get into school, and work in the industry. They're in LA. And what they did for her is they pimped her car out and everything. They built a projector in the back of her car that she could take anywhere. Right?
Because why would you not want that?
In reality, Brooke was not a film student. She was actually a 25-year-old cocktail waitress. And the entire film student storyline was entirely fabricated by the producers of the show.
Right.
Even the apartment that they found her in, when they go to her apartment, it's not hers. The producers rented that out because it better fitted their storyline for the film student. And they even filmed 10 different iterations of her reaction to seeing her car for the first time. So,
Okay.
all stuff like that, whatever. It's a reality TV show. Like, it's essentially what I'm saying is none of it is real.
Shock horror.
She had to act stoked upon seeing her car because while none of this is real, like it's all completely fabricated, the cars and the people are completely real.
So she's like, what the fuck am I going to do with this projector?
The problems with their cars were legit. They were their actual cars, right? So Brooke has to act like stunned and like, oh my God, wow, this car's amazing. But in reality, she was fucking mortified with the final result. And I implore you to watch the episode because the car is horrendous. The color scheme is fucked up.
Okay.
She dubs it as Barbie's dream car from hell. And it is so accurately accurate.
Okay.
Definitely watch it. Another person on the show, Seth Martino, who, for the purposes of this explanation, I'm going to say he is a plus-sized man, had the producers conduct a storyline of Seth being a candy fanatic with chocolate and candy lying around the floor and seats of the car, half open so he could eat it later because, literally, just he's a plus-sized person, so, haha, fat.
Haha, we're fat phobic. When was the
Early
fucking
2000s,
early
yeah.
2000s was so fat phobic, man.
So on Reddit, Seth actually said, and quote, "I know I'm fat, but they went the extra mile to make me look extra fat by telling the world that I kept candy all over my seat and floor just in case I got hungry. Then gave me a cotton candy machine in my trunk." Another person was Jake Glacier, who had his 80s Buick pimped out. His reaction apparently wasn't up to scratch with the crew, and Glacier actually told the Huffington Post that one of the West Coast Customs crew, Big Dane, who was featured on the show, walked him around the showroom for a few minutes and implored him about how much work actually went into the fit and that he should be more grateful for the work they put in.
Right.
Now, the way I explained that is an eloquent way of me explaining what happened.
Ah.
What really happened.
A lot of swearing.
A lot of swearing, a lot of threatening.
Right.
Anyway, the most fucked up part of this is the producers encouraged Jake to break up with his girlfriend Amy because it would make for better TV having a loser driving a beat-up car after he had just been broken up with. Yes.
What, he couldn't have just pretended to break up? They were like, no, you actually
They were
have
like,
to
you
dump
need to
her.
break up with your girl to make this storyline work. You need to be a fucking loser who got broken up with, who has a shit car. We're going to transform your life around.
Okay.
Yeah. With a car you basically can't use. So, in the interest of upgrades, to make this all even worse, several of the features and the upgrades in these cars had to be removed before they could even drive them away. So this was either because they simply weren't road legal to drive with, or they took out fundamental components of the car to showcase them.
They're like, it's got no engine,
But
there's a fucking popcorn machine in the
Bruh,
front, man.
there's no engine, but you want to chill your beers?
You can't drive it, but have you seen how much spaghetti you can fit in this
Bro,
bad
you can't
boy?
drive it, but it'll cut your fucking hair for you. So look, one example of this was the cotton candy machine, right? So in Seth's boot, he had the cotton candy machine, and the cotton candy machine has no lid, rendering it completely useless. So there were also these winged doors, like, you know, like with the man,
the ones that, like the Batman doors,
DeLorean,
yeah.
So there were those installed in the back seats of the car. They had to be removed because the pistons that pushed them open couldn't be installed while the seat belts were installed.
Right, okay.
So
It's pretty important stuff.
you couldn't have seatbelts in the back seat. Another was a champagne bar was installed into a car, which is literally a drink driving legal issue in itself. It had to be removed, obviously. This was because if the car or the owner were to get into a DUI incident with that car, the workshop would be in tremendous legal trouble and would be completely held responsible. Fair enough. So, okay, you might be wondering, okay, why didn't these guys just, sell their cars off and, immediately tell everybody about
NDAs,
what
bro.
everything?
NDAs.
Yeah. In their contract, it would look terrible for the producers of the show if these guys who supposedly have been getting the car of their dreams were selling them on eBay the next day. So in their contracts they had to sign, they had to agree to never sell their car ever. Period.
Never.
Never. They could never sell the car. They had to keep that car forever. They were not allowed to sell it.
Wow.
Period. So, for some people like Seagal, she actually found a loophole through the DMV. She gifted her car to her husband,
and then he
sold the car. And they got a whopping $7,500 from
Which,
the sale.
like what, 2006?
It's pretty good.
Wouldn't...
For a car from the 80s, it's not bad. Like, that's okay. All right. So, okay, they're flipping these cars with new parts, features. What about actual mechanical issues like the engine fucking up, the timing belt, the brake pads, anything like that? So West Coast Customs straight up fucking skipped anything that could not be visualized on the show, opting for just literally what you can see showcased.
Right.
So this meant, for example, if a dude had a coffin-shaped barbecue built into his hearse, but if his engine was making a guttural noise, none for Gretchen Wiener.
Wow.
This led to many, and I mean many, of the cars on the show either not starting or stalling out on the drive back to the workshop. It got so bad, MTV literally had a flatbed tow truck on call at all times just for this issue.
Wow.
Seth, who I mentioned before, actually spent around $1,700 of his own money to replace the engine after the show had aired. So for Jake's car, his muffler needed to be replaced. However, West Coast Customs instead installed a fake exhaust and explained that was the reason the car was rumbling so much. It's this fat new exhaust we put on your car. How cool does it sound? Okay. So the show was not only shitty for the people coming on the show, but behind the scenes, things weren't much better. Mauricio Hernandez was an employee at West Coast Customs. He explained that while working there for his 5 years in West Coast Customs, he routinely worked 60 to 70-hour weeks with no overtime pay and no benefits while making below minimum wage.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
So here's the tea. West Coast Customs often hired undocumented employees, much like Mauricio, as they were easy to exploit and they did not have the option to report these issues as they were employed either legally or they entered the country illegally.
Yeah.
So moving forward to 2014, the United States Department of Labor found that West Coast Customs had violated the Fair Labor Standards Acts. They did this by not correctly documenting hours employees worked, coercing unpaid overtime, paying below minimum wage, and falsely classifying their on-site long-time employees as independent contractors.
Oof. Yeah,
That's a big one. All of which are profoundly illegal. The founder of West Coast Customs, Ryan Friedinghow, leaving the court out of legal proceedings altogether, agreed to pay $157,592. How do I say this? $157,592 in back wages. There we go.
Well done.
That's my thing. Your thing is long words. Mine's long numbers.
No, yours is just numbers in general.
True.
You routinely mix up like 17,000 and 1,700.
So this was $157,592 in back wages to employees and $16,830 in fines. The Ryan Friedenhouse is a genuine piece of shit. He's a legit piece of shit. If there's anything to take away from this, it's that this douchebag exploited vulnerable people for manual labor and actually bragged about it on ENT Scoop when he was asked about what makes a good West Coast Customs employee. He said the two best qualities for a West Coast Customs employee were A, working unscheduled overtime, and B, doing whatever we ask them to.
Love that.
You can go fuck yourself. Okay, so you know how I said this gets dramatically worse as the case goes on?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So check this out. Bruce Bearford Redmond was the co-creator and executive producer for Pimp My Ride, as well as being the producer for Survivor. Fun fact.
Okay.
He attended Pascack Hills High School, where he befriended Pimp My Ride co-creator Rick Hurwitz. In April of 1999, Bruce married Brazilian-born Monica Burgos. Together, they had 2 children. Monica was the owner of the popular Zambuba bar and restaurant in Los Angeles. And in April of 2010, Bruce, along with his wife and their 2 children, traveled to the Moon Palace in Cancun, Mexico, for a holiday/celebration of her birthday. On April 8th, 2010, Monica was found dead. She had been strangled and her body dumped in a sewer near the Moon Palace Resort.
Jesus.
Later on that day, Bruce was detained and questioned by police, though he was later released, on the condition that he did not leave Mexico while police were investigating his wife's murder. And to do this, they held his passport. However, instead of doing this, Bruce hops the border illegally back to the US with his children and takes a train back to LA, all while having his passport confiscated. 2 young British tourists staying at the hotel that the family was staying at reported to police that they heard the couple arguing in their room on April 4th. This, topped with scratches found on Bruce's hands and neck, were enough for Mexico to issue an arrest warrant for Bruce on the 31st of May in 2010. He was then extradited back to Mexico to stand trial for the murder of his wife. So, on March 12, 2015, Bruce was convicted of murdering his wife and sentenced to 12 years in prison. From November 2014, he had been incarcerated in jail in Cancun before and after the sentencing. He hadn't seen his children, I think up until 2015, he hadn't seen his children in 5 years.
Wow.
A long time. And in a video diary made during his incarceration, Bruce had actually claimed that much of the evidence against him was reportedly contaminated in police custody. The amounts of blood that were found in the hotel room where the family stayed in didn't belong to Monica per DNA testing. And as of September 2019, he was released from prison after only serving 7.5 years out of 12.
Huh.
So it's kind of...
So do we like not think it was him?
Well, it's kind of ambivalent because it's in a country... It's in a different country, so it's already going to be hard to sort of get the full facts. But also, there's kind of iffiness about it.
Yeah.
That makes sense? It's... You put the evidence of like them having an argument and him having scratches on himself, and
the fact that it's always the husband.
And his wife is found dead from asphyxiation.
Yes.
However, the evidence that was collected against him, he claims, is contaminated.
Right.
And there isn't a lot to sort of go into, to read into it. He is released now, as of 2019.
Yeah.
But how fucking crazy is that? So not only do you have like this entirely fabricated stories made by Pimp My Ride creators, but the actual cars themselves were unusable, had to have several of the features taken out, and the co-creator is arrested for fucking murdering his wife.
Yeah, that's a cursed show.
See, and you thought there wasn't going to be a murder in this case, people. There was a murder after all.
We always find a way to
find a murder.
Sneak into murder.
Yeah, which is kind of the reason I cover this case, because there is a murder in it somewhat. Unsolved, I guess you could say.
Kind of, yeah.
Hung
I mean,
a
I'm
bit.
going to say it's him.
Yeah.
It's always the fucking husband.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're sadistic enough to have a show run like that.
Yeah. It's always the goddamn husband.
Yeah.
Every time.
Anyway, that's the story of Pimp My Ride. Fascinating that it was that bad. Like, really bad. Like, forcing people... contestants isn't the right word, but contestants on the show to, like, reenact excitement under, like, pressure from people who weren't even, like...
Or when they've been like, here's your car, you can't fucking drive it because there's a pinball machine
Some people
instead of an engine.
couldn't fucking start the car and leave. They had to get it towed back to their house. And then they're like, okay, you deal with it.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
That's so bad.
And they not being able to sell it.
It's a show where you're fixing people's cars.
And you're making them worse.
The whole point was that, like, they had things like my engine cuts out. And they're like, yeah, no worries, bro. We'll fix that. You're a poor person. No worries, bro. Let's do it.
Is it bad that I still really want to watch it, though?
I don't know. Because I mean...
It holds such a nostalgic place in my heart.
Look, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to say exactly what we're going to do. However, the way that we would consume that, they would not get any money out of it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, we don't have MTV anyway, so...
No. But we're not going to buy anything, any DVDs or whatever. We're going to, let's say...
Let's not admit to anything on a recording.
Yeah, so if anyone is listening who can legally affect us, we're going to not watch the show, period.
Yes.
Wink.
Exactly.
Wink.
Wink, wink, nudge,
Wink.
nudge. Anyway. That's the end of the serious part of the portion.
Yes.
Serious
part of the portion.
Serious part of the episode. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Serious episode of the episode.
And and then we're going to start the portion of the episode where we just talk shit for a little bit.
So if you're here just for the cases, thank you for coming around. Please leave through the gift shop. Grab yourself an inflatable shark. Give us 5 stars on the review things if you did like the show. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
If you're here to hear us talk shit and slowly lose our sanity, welcome.
Welcome to the show after the show.
Just to start this off, we have a blanket on we have like a little love seat in the corner of our living room area, which is dubbed Peach's seat because she loves
our
our
sitting on
cat
it, and
Peach
she
loves that seat.
getting covered up.
We have a blanket on there that we haven't removed because she's just in love with it.
She's like her mum. She does not fare well in the winter.
She'll just like
She
sleep.
feels the cold.
She'll get cuddled up in that blanket and sleep all day.
She has been sleeping there literally all day.
All day, yeah.
She woke up for a brief dinner break.
Probably to piss every now and then.
She had some cuddles.
Yeah. She's super cuddly during winter.
I know, it's very cute.
So, yeah, wanted to give a quick shout out, because I did already, but quick shout out to Dylan for buying 2 of our shirts. Props to you, man. Woo! We're going to buy ourselves a $10 bottle of wine to celebrate.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Works out to
Appreciate
be like,
that.
yeah.
I don't know.
We get like a small cut of it. Like I was saying to you though, it's like a drop shipping company.
Yeah.
So for me to just like design it and then put it up and not really have to do anything, you know, I'm not complaining. And you guys get merch, so everyone wins.
Yeah, I'm sure like eventually maybe we'll do like I guess depending on how things go, like maybe a real
I mean, it's
setup
real.
thing. No, but I mean like
And
something
apparently it's good quality. One of our lovely listeners, Jen, bought a t-shirt a while ago, and I think she said the quality's really good.
Great.
And it's only just starting to like fade a little bit now.
Okay.
So yeah, no complaints from me.
Fantastic.
But all the designs, I did them all myself.
Yes, Laura did do. She's a graphic designer.
Graphic designer.
Yep.
An artiste.
She's a creative
And I
person.
have cat hair stuck on my leg.
She's very good. What's been happening in your life, Laura?
Honestly, not much. Hey, we lead very boring lives these days.
We've kind of just been like
Just
living.
no thoughts, just vibes.
Yeah. Because I don't
Just-
think we've had time to just like, exist.
No,
You know what I mean? Like just work, come home, like enjoy each other's time.
it was literally the other day someone said to me the 3 most stressful experiences in an everyday human's life is death, changing jobs, and moving houses.
And we had all of that.
We both went through all 3 of those in like the space of 2 months.
Yeah.
So I must say we have earned the right to just vibe.
Yeah. Just to live life.
No thoughts, just
Exactly,
vibes.
Yeah. And I got to say, I've really been enjoying just like, living. Enjoying
Yeah.
things. I am keen to get back into more creative stuff. Definitely, for sure. But I think I genuinely needed like a couple weeks just to be like, you know what? I'm just going to work, come home, go do things.
Do you know what? As much as like sometimes I really feel like I should delete TikTok off my phone, every now and then I get a few videos that will like pop up. And I saw this video the other day that was talking about how it was really quite beautiful. The voiceover, I guess, was talking about how the meaning of life is to simply enjoy the passing of time.
That's a fair point, yeah.
And I thought that was so beautiful because I feel like, especially for us at the start of this year, and now it's fucking May, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how in the dick
What?
did it get to May? Like, I don't know. I feel like you're always like constantly waiting for something. Like at the start of
Yeah.
the year, we were waiting to move house, and then, everything with your pop happened. So we were like waiting for the funeral to happen, and then we were waiting for you to get a new job, and then we were waiting for me to change my job, and then we were waiting for my parents' house to sell, and now it's kind of like I'm kind of kicking myself because as much as like, you obviously have to give yourself a bit of grace with like, it's very easy to look back in hindsight and be like, oh, you should have enjoyed that time. But it's May
Yeah, I know.
and I feel like I have
Yeah.
not enjoyed, like, I feel like I haven't stopped to like just enjoy the passing of time and be
Yeah.
like, wow, yeah, like life is a bit hard at the moment, but like what a beautiful day, the sun is shining. Like, do you know what I mean? It sounds really cliched and bullshit when you say that, but literally nearly half of the year has gone.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's definitely, I feel like that is a great point because I think it's either you're not realizing time is passing,
Or you're
like
waiting
perhaps,
for something and like
or you're
wishing
not waiting
it away.
for time to pass. You're not wishing time will pass, but also just you're enjoying things as they're happening,
Yeah.
as they're coming. You're making the most out of what you're getting from them.
Which is why I'm trying, especially because I feel, especially for the two of us, like my birthday's coming up at the end of June, and then you've got your bucks at the start of July. I've got my, oh, not the start, but like the mid July.
Yeah.
I've got mine at the end of July, and then we're getting married at the end of August. And it's like, if we're not careful, we'll be so excited and so just like, oh my God, I can't wait for those things to come. And then you'll be like, oh, and it's September.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
So that is my focus for the next few weeks, because you've well and truly settled into your new job.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I think just on that as well, like, us settling into our new sort of work lifestyle, I feel like we're really just enjoying life and the cycle,
Yeah.
the planning and the structure of that. Like, I for the first time in, like, what?
5 years.
5-6 years, feel comfortable in a workplace
Yeah.
and feel more stable in my mental health, because I've found like a workplace that's like, one, like
Ironically full of mentally unstable people.
but also like genuinely enjoyable job,
Yeah.
and like I have people that I work with who
And everyone's so nice.
they're literally like some of my best friends now.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so good to go into a workplace and not have to feel like, who am I going to be today? Or
Yeah.
what face am I going to wear today?
Which is like, as you know, and I'm in a new team at work, but like that's always been my problem working in like a corporate
For sure.
environment.
Or
I'm like,
office
I don't
in general.
fit in here. And I'm sure like, I'm not being like a pick me girl. Like I'm sure lots of people feel like they don't fit in corporate environments.
Yeah.
But genuinely sometimes I'll say things and people look at me like I'm like a zoo animal, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, even just saying to some people, like, I run a true crime podcast, they're like, oh, you like that kind of stuff? And it's like, this isn't my
yeah.
environment. And I know exactly what you mean, because it's like, I think a lot of people want to feel like they're isolated in society, or they feel like they're the main character, or they feel like they're the odd one out. But genuinely, I think people, for the most part, can thrive in a corporate environment.
Yeah.
But you and I aren't.
I'm not built
We're
for
not those
it.
people.
I'm
We
really
aren't
not.
corporate people. We aren't 9-to-5 grind kind of people. We're sporadic. We're fucking energetic. We're chaos. We can't do that.
Yes.
We are just pure
Chaos is a
chaos.
good way of describing it.
Which is like, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love my job now, because it's fucking chaotic and it's different. It's sporadic, and I can work my life not only around it, but with it. And that's something that I've found has really benefited my mental
Because I feel
health.
like it always, especially for the two of us trying to pursue creative
Yeah.
endeavors as our careers, it makes it so much easier when, again, you're not wishing your life away, being like, oh, I just wish I was successful enough at this endeavor so I could quit.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, I mean, like, yeah, like best case scenario, would love to be able to quit and just
For sure.
work.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, I'm actually kind of
I want to
happy
enjoy the time I
which
have.
is what we both have found
Yes.
this year, which neither of us have had for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to contribute greatly
Tremendously. Yeah.
to just being able to actually, like, again, enjoy the passing of time and be like, would I, like, is there a part of me that would like to fast forward to 5 years' time when, like, we're rich and, like, whatever, like,
Yeah.
you're doing music, I'm doing acting, we're doing the podcast, like doing
for
all that
sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm now content to just go with the flow a bit more. Like, I don't feel like I'm constantly being like, fuck, I just
Yeah. I
don't
just
want
want
to
to get to this
like,
next
I just
stage.
want to skip to the next bit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of okay.
It's like, for now, just knowing that it's going to happen.
Which is a nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's an odd feeling.
But the time you spend from now to then is genuinely going to be enjoyable. And you just want to experience that
Yeah.
period, like before you even get to your next stage.
Which for both of us, you know, you stuck it out at a place you really didn't like for 5 years.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm too fucking ADHD for that. So I've hopped around. How many jobs have I had in the past 5 years? They've all been in insurance. But how many different companies have I worked at?
5 or
5,
6, yeah.
6, 7, maybe.
Who knows? Who's counting?
And I hated all of them. Because at the end of the day, it was like that. I just couldn't find that level of contentedness that allowed me to just be like, okay, I'm good. I'm good doing this in the meantime.
And I think that's different for everybody, because just the whole enigma of being a human being, or just the essence of being a human being in general, is that we're all different and how we process things and deal with things and exist. But I think the general idea is like, if something's not necessarily working out or something's not really enjoyable, if you're not doing something to enjoy the time you have on Earth, it's like, at least for us, we have the mentality of, well, fucking, why are you doing it?
Do you want to hear a very interesting thing that I saw on TikTok the other day?
Yes.
That was talking about how human beings view time very differently.
That's a point.
So if you had a meeting that was scheduled at like 12 p.m. lunchtime, and you got an email saying, can we move the meeting forward 2 hours, would you say the meeting is now at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m.?
10 a.m.
Yeah, see, because I would say 2 p.m.
Okay. Why would you say that moving it forward?
Because I think forward is going forward.
Wouldn't it not be forward in the schedule? So forward in...
No, I would think forward in time.
Because it's also just the terminology. Like, can we move the meeting back 2 hours?
Yes, because see, then I would think
say
it's
that's
10 a.m.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So apparently, if you said 2 p.m., you view yourself as moving through time.
Yeah.
But if you say 10 a.m., you view time as moving through you.
Okay, I can't even begin to comprehend that.
Yeah, it's just very interesting because reading the comments as well, everyone's being like, how the fuck would you think it was 2 p.m.? And then other people are being like, how the fuck would you think it's 10 a.m.?
Well, just because, like, I think, like, can we move the meeting forward? I would assume that would just mean, can we bring the meeting closer to now? And pushing something back, I would imagine, is pushing that further from now. If that makes sense.
If you said push it back...
Because then how else would you phrase it?
You said it differently when you said it the first time.
Move the meeting back?
Yes.
Yeah, I would just imagine that's like moving it further away.
See, because to me, the difference is in the move and the push.
Right.
Because when you say, can we move it
Maybe
back,
it's not so much a time thing, but it's a terminology thing.
Maybe. It's very interesting, though.
Because...
It also made me think of the other day when we were waiting for our takeaway lunch. Same room, but I was quite comfortable in a jumper and you were like sweating, like so overheating. And we were standing next to each other in the exact same room. It's not like you just come back from a run or something. Like we'd walked to the takeaway together. Even things like that, like blow my mind. Like how can two humans be in the exact same room but experience it in
and you know what,
so different?
I reckon the answer for that is fucking fascinating. It has to be something like...
Yeah, how is it that humans can feel temperature differently?
Yeah,
when
but
it's
it all has
temperature.
to be heritage-based and ancestral-based for sure.
It has to be, surely.
Just the different climates and different
wild.
parts of the world. It has to be something to do with that.
But yeah, things like that, I find it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Here's a fun fact.
Yes, I love fun facts.
So... just to sort of fill everybody in, my current job now, I work with people and their pets. And
Yeah, don't say where you work. That could get weird.
I'm not going to say where I work, but I work with people and their pets. And a person who brought their dog in, they were Māori, which is the indigenous people of New Zealand, which is what I am, which is where my name comes from, came in, and I said, "Oh, cool, that's cool. Like, I'm Māori as well. Like, my name's Tama." The lady said, "Wow, my dog's name is Tama."
So cute.
So, shouts out to the dog named Tama. You're a fucking cool dog.
And it also means something in Japanese.
In Japanese, it's a very popular name to give a cat because I think it means like jewel, like a sphere.
Cute.
Like, I think it's kind of the equivalent of calling your cat like diamond or like a gem or a jewel.
Speaking of cat,
yeah,
she's doing that cute thing.
The thing where they cover their faces with the paws.
It's the cutest thing ever.
Very cute.
It kills me every time.
Yeah.
I love them so much. This
Little
is why I
darling.
don't get when people say they don't like cats.
Yeah.
I understand having a preference.
For
being
sure.
like, oh, I like cats, but I'm more of a dog person. That's
Yeah.
me. Like, I like dogs, but I'm more of a cat
I think
person.
in terms of owning an animal, I would rather own a cat because I think for
They're so low maintenance. in
well, I think
comparison.
for my mental capacity, I think I just need something that can just legitimately just look after itself.
Yeah, we just like. Well, I mean, they can't look after themselves.
You know what I mean? Like
But
compared
yeah,
to a
like we're just
a
like these
fucking-
like weird little ships in the night that just
Yeah.
like coexist. But I also think like because you can tell, especially, you can tell with all of them, with all three of our cats, that they love us. I have never
Yeah.
doubted that for a second. The way they act towards us, it just blows my mind that we can't verbally communicate with each other on a deep level.
but you can understand each other.
But like we
Yeah.
kind of get each other and love each other, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
Well, that's the thing. Working
this
with
got very philosophical.
No, but I think definitely working with animals, I have realized that in people and their animals, I can like meet someone and meet their pet and completely understand the dynamic between the two. Not only due to like, because people want to blame a lot of things on like breeds and whatnot. And sure, that is a thing, but people forget like temperament and personality are definitely derivatives of the owners.
100%.
100%. It could
'Cause
just be the way they're born, absolutely, but
Yeah, like I've always had cats
yeah,
growing up, and our cats have always been incredibly
cuddly,
loving, cuddly,
Yeah.
affectionate, like loves to be around you, does like weird little quirky,
Yeah.
funny things. I'm like, that can't be a coincidence that we just happened to get.
But every cat that you've met that has been like running away or doesn't like people, hisses at someone because they're coming too close, generally speaking, they're a cat that spends 80% of their time during the day outside.
Or they have trauma, past trauma.
For sure, trauma is a big trigger, but I'm talking mostly just a house cat. That
Yeah,
has
that
been
are just
bought.
like left to their. I don't get people that.
Just leave them out all day?
Yeah,
Bring 'em
it's
in.
like, why-
What are you doing?
Why have a pet?
Yeah.
Like people who, and like no shade if you're listening and you do this, like live
Yeah.
your bliss.
But
I
it's
just
it's-
don't
it's
get
just
it. Like,
kind of-
why get a dog and then be like, no,
Yeah.
they live outside, they never come in the house.
But-
why the fuck did you get a dog
For
then?
the most part, people who have had cats like that and they've been like, oh man, the cat's an arsehole, or like, cats are assholes. It's like, you've only ever interacted with cats where the family has owned a dog and the cat spends most of its time outdoors because they don't want to deal with the cat being
Yeah, and the
indoors.
poor cat is just ignored. So it's
Yeah.
like, all right, fuck
So
you
it's like,
then.
okay, well, why it doesn't have any interaction with human beings, doesn't have any affection, doesn't
Yeah.
get petted, doesn't really
Like,
get
of course it
fed
doesn't.
properly.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, that cat's going to be standoffish or just, at the very least, not give two fucks about humans.
Yeah.
And you want to blame them on the cat? It's not the cat. It's the people looking after the cat. And it's just such a simple thing to fix. Love your fucking pet. Or
Yeah.
don't buy a pet you can't love.
Yeah. Yes.
It's really as simple as that.
Don't buy a pet you can't love.
Exactly.
I like that. We should get that made into bumper stickers.
That'll be our new shirt.
Don't buy a pet you can't love.
Yeah. All right. Well,
We just burned through a bunch of topics,
We
and my
did.
throat hurts now
Yeah.
after talking.
we're gonna wrap it up there. Laura, where can they find us?
You can find us on all things social media at the BSC Podcast. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the topics that we have discussed this evening.
Yes.
I don't know. Tell us have you ever had an arsehole cat or pet that was just an arsehole for no reason?
Yeah, let us know your arsehole cat story.
Put egg on our face. Maybe you did have a cat that you tried to shower in affection and it just wasn't having a bar of it.
Ship us an egg and we'll put it on our face for you personally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's all code word for today.
Egg.
Egg. Code word is egg.
Egg.
With the egg emoji.
Yep.
And yeah.
That's kind of it, yeah.
I think that's kind of it.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. We will see you guys next week. And as Laura said, if you are digging these kind of cases we're getting into, because they are a bit different, if you are digging them, let us know.
Let us know.
Please give us some feedback, because this show, as much as it is for us, is for you guys as well. And we love you. We love you all genuinely. We have nothing but love for you.
Nothing but love for you.
Unless you don't love us, then it's kind of awkward.
No love for you.
Then we like you guys, and you guys just like us, and then we'll not talk to each other for 2 months and sort of just walk past each other and hey.
I'm not singing that. That got too long. Anyway, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, cool. Bye. Non-progression wiener.